All right, today we have a very special guest on the Simulation Pulse. Dr. Liz Oviawe is joining us from NSU. And I met Dr. Liz many, many years ago. We were, I think it was 2018 at IMSH, the International Medical Simulation and Healthcare Conference. And we were there with a very early VR application called the Airway Lab project that we did with Adtalem Global Education. And I was demonstrating that, and Dr. Liz came up and immediately could see the value of what we were doing. And she, pulled up a chair and spent some time getting to know me and getting to know the work that we were doing. And ever since then, we've had a tremendous collaboration. We've worked together on some really ambitious and exciting projects. And Dr. Liz is a visionary. I think of all the people, we work with a lot of people that are very visionary. But Dr. Liz started, I think, all the way back in 2006, 2007,
Yep.
using virtual worlds, and has been continuously innovating and developing. And I'm very, very excited to have this conversation today. So welcome to the Simulation Pulse, Dr. Liz.
Thank you so much.
So tell us, your title, the organization you're with in your own words to make sure that I didn't miss anything.
My name is Dr. Liz Oviawe. I work with at Nova Southeastern University with the College of Dr. Kiran C. Patel College of Osteopathic Medicine. So I'm in charge of everything that has to do with KPCOM technology, directing the management and operation, and also running a department that we have, the Division of Institutional Technology. So under that umbrella, we bring in innovative, solution to our curriculum. So our vision is to transform our curriculum, leveraging innovative technology, to gain success, to increase or enhance our students' academic success, even to the extent of our faculty and staff professional development.
Excellent, excellent. And what got you into technology to begin with? Like you were using, again, these 3D real-time virtual environments for many, many years now. What was your original interest in that? How did you find your way into the virtual world?
Actually, my background, I will start with my background started with physics education. So I delved into doing my master's in computer science. And I went into the management information system as well and delved into biomedical informatics. So, and I work in the area of technology, information technology, administration in every aspect of technology for many years. So, and my goal was to leverage technology in medical education. So, and that was what actually brought me into doing my PhD in computing technology in education. So that's a desire to leverage technology and to use it in an innovative way to address complexity when it comes to medical education. Actually, what propels me into, trying to figure out the best way to do this. So in 2007, I think, we got our first mannequin, high fidelity mannequin. And it was so exciting to get it because it was like in human form, and it has all these robotic things that we can do with it, the voice, and everything. And I was in charge of configuring it. So I had to configure it from scratch, working with the vendor, getting it ready for our students. And then a couple of months afterwards, I was thinking to myself, this is really cool. All the students have to come in and use this mannequin. But what if we have this in a virtual environment? Then our student can actually do this from anywhere, so, and that was what actually, was a driving force to see, okay, how can I leverage that? The mannequin is one thing, but what else can we do to enhance our students, to help them reinforce the understanding? Mannequin is so expensive, so, and that was why I delved into Second Life. So I started looking at Second Life virtual worlds, environments to see what we can do. And that kind of, brought me into the 3D environment. And from that time onward, I've developed so many things, within Second Life, trying to leverage that environment in the education of our students.
Outstanding. And even as I started, even to this day, when I do research and I look up, precedent for some of the work that we're doing, I'll find your work. Like it's one of the first things to pop up that, I'll think I have a great idea for something that could be done in a virtual world. And I'm looking at different precedent and has anybody else tried this? And oh, sure enough, Dr. Oviawe did it already in Second Life, many years ago. So you've been really, innovating in this space for a long time and really have done a lot of the groundwork that has now sort of become something that's increasingly I don't know want to say that it's mainstream yet, but it's definitely growing. So it's very exciting, I would imagine, to be at a point now where you're seeing these virtual technologies being adopted in schools all over the world. But you were there, from the beginning. And so, what is your perspective on that now that it's become something that's integrated into the curriculum at this scale?
I'm very excited because I remember when I was talking about immersive technology, nobody understood what I was saying. So I remember one of my deans said, you're the only one that understands what you're saying, right? We don't know what immersive technology is all about. But you know what, when COVID hit and, everybody had to stay at home and there was no way we could do anything else. So I guess that actually opens the door, to what we've been working on. Like people are now realizing that, okay, there's a platform out there that you can actually use, that you can leverage, the student can actually do from everywhere. So, and that kind of leapfrog us into the limelight when everybody now understands what it means to have, to be immersed in your education using the virtual reality environments, which have always been there, but people were not really paying close attention to it up until after or during the COVID and subsequently after COVID. So I'm really excited that, it's happening and is like a dream come true for me. And I'm very excited that even at KPCom, we are fully integrated, virtual reality experience into almost all our courses, so, and working closely with our faculty and our students. And we are also doing research on what we are doing as well. So because, there's one thing to use technology, there's another thing to see how effective it is, whether it's working or not. So my goal is not just to use technology for the sake of technology. My goal is to use technology to solve that problem that nothing else can solve. So medical education or medical training or medical practice is very, it's a very complex, endeavor. It's a matter of life and death, when it comes to that. So you want to teach your students and you want your faculty to have the skill to be able to teach those students. And you want the student to be able to enhance their understanding of the concept being taught by going through it, repeating the skill over and over again until they master it, in an environment that not only, engages them, but also allows them to use all their learning skills, all their, the sensory organs, whether being touch sites, visualizing it and, involving into the, aspects or in the work or out to, the concepts of the skills that they have to master. So, and that was one of the things that we did with medical procedure. So, because the medical procedure is a skill of how to, and it's a step that have to be carried in a particular order. So if you don't follow that step in that particular order, you put the life of the patient at risk. So we realized that virtual reality is a platform that actually allows us to do that, allows our students to come in and experience that and do it all over again until they're able to master the skill. And in addition to even using the mannequin, we're able to combine virtual reality with the mannequin, with the classroom, everything blended together to enhance our student skill when it comes to particular procedure. So in answering your question, all the schools are doing it now. I'm very excited. It's like, okay, this is where we are supposed to be. So we're getting there. And for KPCom, actually, we're also partnering with industries outside, like yourself and even some other vendors, even the manufacturer of the devices that we are using, as well, to make sure that, we are getting what's the best of what we need to help our students and also to evaluate what we're doing, reaching out back to those vendors and, okay, this is what is working, this is what is not working. How can we improve on this?
That's amazing. That is
Mm.
absolutely amazing. And I think it, probably, that we became fast friends because we shared, I think, a lot of that interest in Second Life. We saw what was possible there. But I think you and I both were using that platform in a very, sorry, my dog is barking. I have to edit that part out. We were both using Second Life in a very sort of non-traditional way to what most of the other users of that platform were using it for,
Mhm,
and it was a very sort of multi-purpose platform there were people in there that were using it as a kind of a virtual chat room that, but the interesting and innovative thing about Second Life was that they gave you the tools, they gave the users the tools to be able to create the content and design the content. And
mhm,
that was one of the first places that was possible. Before that, people had to use to either write their own game engines, or, Unity really wasn't the thing at that point that
mhm,
far back. So that's, I think, where the innovation came from. You took those tools and you were able to use them to achieve very specific goals that you were setting out to achieve, rather than, hiring a team of programmers or having to do all the programming yourself from the ground up. This was a real-time multi-user environment that gave you the tools to be able to create that content and innovate and iterate and build that. And there wasn't really anything else like that at the
mhm,
time. There
mhm.
was, eventually there were other platforms that sort of spun out of that. But back in 2007, that was the only place you could do that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That was the only place, and it was, so fascinating to see that you can actually build up something. You create your own avatar. You have your student flying into the clinic that I created, and then they actually blend, using the art observation, to see using art observation to actually go into the patient's room and be able to use the knowledge that they gained from observing the artwork to diagnosing the patient situation, cases, and things like that. So it was really interesting to see that, we are able to do it far back then. And now is a lot easier, coming all the way and everything coming to play. And people are now using it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I think what was really interesting is that when you eventually got to the point where you were working with these high fidelity mannequins,
Mhm,
that I think is similar to the genius of mannequins, insofar as it wasn't like the mannequin came with a pre-programmed set of things that only you can do these things. It was a platform, right? The mannequins are essentially a platform that allow you as the innovator, as an instructor, to be able to say, here's what we need to do with this mannequin. Here are the problems that we're seeing that students need to address, or, opportunities that we're seeing. And so, it again, building on that narrative of a platform that gives the tools to the educators to create the content. Mannequins were like that too. And I think we saw that potential. And that's where what we tried to do with Acadicus was to build on that platform
mhm,
concept. So instead of going and building a library of pre-programmed experiences, we decided to build tools, I think, growing from a lot of the lessons and opportunities that we saw in Second Life,
mhm,
and to sort of bring that into the VR environment where you're actually putting on a headset and being immersed. And so, that's where I think you immediately saw the opportunity there, because you were like, this program isn't going to tell me how to do it. This
mhm.
program is going to give me tools and an opportunity so that I can have a voice in shaping and creating these experiences that we're going to build together.
Yeah, and that was the beauty of your product, actually, because like I was looking for a product, because when we are moving away from Second Life, I wanted something else that could actually, allow me to, build stuff, in addition to um having it tailored made, but also I want to be able to do something on my own easily, customize what we need to do to tailor it to what will benefit us more. And Acadicus seemed to be, the first, when I just saw it, that's okay. Acadicus seemed to be, a way that's a platform that can help us to do that. So, and we can easily, use the assets that you already have to create a whole room you know, with the avatar patient, with the virtual patient in a virtual world, equivalent to the mannequins, and have our students use that, or have our faculty also go in and record their own instructions, So that actually, was very useful. It was very useful skill that's, and very useful features that your product has that actually have helped us so far. And we have used it in so many ways, and we are making progress I always give you guys feedback. I always stress you guys. It's okay, we want this done. How can we get there? Trying to get the best of what we can get, out of the product. And you guys have always been very, forthcoming, taking our feedback and being able to give us what we need, no matter even how hard it is, challenging your team. So, and that has been very helpful in the product that we have so far that we have been using for our students.
Yeah, and that was a tremendous, collaboration too, starting, almost 5 years ago. You really identified several procedures that would be very valuable in medical education and brought that to us. And I think together we sort of grappled with this sort of like spectrum between wanting it to be a sandbox where it's truly flexible and these are building blocks and, like Lego pieces that you can reuse and recombine in different ways, but the skills that are very much stepwise procedures, that there's only really one way that you want to do these things. And in order to have, from a programmatic perspective, things that like we socketed this in, we connected this, therefore this happens, we have to get into some pre-programmed elements to it, which is sort of the antithesis of the open sandbox model. So we're kind of like, we were always kind of going back and forth on like, how can we keep this as open, as flexible as possible, but also make it so that it's a standalone experience that students can do in a self-guided way that doesn't always require a facilitator to be present. And so that's kind of the balance that we walked with that. And I think it was really interesting, the way that you brought this idea about building the content, but then having an instructor do a 3D recording of the demonstration. And I think that the 3D recording feature in Acadicus really allowed for flexibility where you still have a voice in creating it. You can still change that script. Your instructors can create their own recordings of those demonstrations rather than sort of depending on what was given to them. So I think that was a great sort of collaboration where we were able to kind of, give and take a little bit and work together. And now we've got these procedures and students are using them. And so you've been measuring, like you say, doing surveys and studies to make sure that to measure the efficacy of these. How have the results been so far?
Well, with the medical procedure, I mean, the last cohorts that actually finished the entire thing, they gave a positive feedback on that. They were very impressed about, being able to use the virtual reality, the virtual environment to learn the skill. So some of them were like, okay, how can we do this more? I said, oh, well, we have open labs, keep coming in, and then you can come and use this tool for as many times as you want, and part of those students actually were interested in doing research with me. So I had a whole like cohort of students that actually focus on immersive technology research and developments with me that we actually go into different topics that they actually narrow their the research based on. Like one of them was trying to measure psychomotor skill. The psychomotor skill, how can virtual reality help to do that? So, and we use one of the medical procedure as the scenario that we used, which was the EKG, and then the student measure it and asks, she had a survey that other student actually completed after, they had the EKG. And the feedback was really good because like we're able to see that the way you move, the way you turn actually helps the students to be, their position, the way they stand, to actually put in those lead placement, the stickers and the lead placement on the patient. And it also teaches them balance, as well. So, and she was able to measure all that in the research that she did. And then we have another student that did a research on learning skill. So out of all the learning skills that we have, which one, fare better using virtual reality? So, and we're able to gauge that kinesthetic and, visualize, don't be able to visualize what you're doing, and also some auditory learning skills, actually gain some experience in that as well. So we figured out that, okay, it was not just only the kinesthetic, part of it. It actually has benefit for every aspect of the learning styles, being able to visualize, being able to hear. That was the recording, the 3D recording. So being able to visualize what you're doing and being able to use to do it, with your own hands as well, the kinesthetic part of it. So, and the research came back, and the fact that every aspect of learning style benefits from it. So by default, you think kinesthetic and auditory, learning style will be higher up, which was true, but all the other ones too came. Being able to visualize, it was even higher. So and that helps us to actually understand the value in the use of immersive technology in medical education. So and I also have another student that she mentioned the confidence. So that was what she measured. So the confidence of doing medical procedure. So how does immersive technology help you to get to that point? So, and what we find out about our own research was being able to do this over and over again, you made a mistake and you try it again, because when they come to my class, they are not leaving until they get that green check mark that everything was done correctly. So they have to keep doing it. So, doing that over and over again until they get it, increases their confidence in the fact that, okay, when I get to the clinic or when I see a real patient, or even when I go to the mannequin and I go to try it, I'm going to be a lot better, so, and that was also measured, and we found, positive feedback, in that
That's
area as well.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, and even like you say, preparing to use the mannequin, I think that's an important distinction. A lot of people think of VR as an attempt to replace mannequins, as
Mhm,
if we're trying to sort of like move away from that. But I really don't see it like that. I think it's a way
mhm,
to support and augment what you're already doing with mannequins. And in your
mhm,
case, preparing students to make really efficient, effective use of their time when they do get that time in the sim lab.
mhm,
Because the sim labs are very expensive facilities. You can't just wander in there anytime you want. They don't
mhm,
so you want to be ready, you want to be prepared, and maybe this opportunity to go into a VR lab and to sort of preview and practice and go over and over, like you say, until you get that green checkbox,
mhm,
then you're ready to go into the lab. And I would like to think that when you go to work with the mannequins and or with a real patient, you'll have deja vu. You've
yeah,
already done this before many
mhm,
times. You've done it
mhm,
you've watched instructors, you've watched them do it from multiple angles, you've done it yourself, and you're ready.
mhm.
So hopefully, it sounds like that's playing out in the research that you're doing as well.
Yeah, that is not actually that was one of the things that we wanted to see, to see how we can, you know, transfer the knowledge, the skill that you gain using virtual reality environment into all these other aspects, the physical aspect, whether being mannequin or even in real life, So we are open to actually follow our students, those that are doing research, to follow them from being in school using virtual reality and using mannequin and go to the real life use where with their during their rotation, and see what they're doing and being able to leverage virtual reality within that environment as well when they're doing their rotation. And that was what brought up our grants that we have now on the USDA grants, which is for the rural area that we're using that. We develop the case scenarios whereby our preceptors, on at that sites can actually use virtual reality, to connect with the students from wherever they are and still continue to teach them in preparation for them going to see their real patient. So by the time they go to see the real patient, they know all those skills, because they've already done it in the VR with the preceptor, and then they are able to do it better. So, that will be a different discussion that once the grant is, completely done, myself and Dr. Florent Carey will come and we can talk more about the details of that, you know, about what we're doing when it comes to the immersive learning virtual medical education.
That's fantastic. I'm really looking forward to that. That content as well, in addition to the procedures, that's sort of the another project that we worked on that was separate from the batch of procedures that we created, but the environments are so realistic, just going in there and walking around and seeing the way, the check-in desk and then going back around to the exam room. We didn't really have an environment quite like that in Acadicus. So that was a really, exciting space to be able to sort of model that out and have such a realistic environment. And then you just go around into the exam room and there the patient is sitting in there. And, it's just really excited to see how that plays out and to have another interview and talk more about that one. So that's
Yeah,
really cool.
definitely. And
And we
um,
also worked together on the GWEP project,
yes.
and we had Dr. Sweta Tiwari was on as a guest. So if you
Hmm.
are watching this now and want to learn more about that project, geriatric workforce enhancement program,
Hmm.
you could watch that episode. But from your perspective, you sort of guided them through this implementation of VR. How was your experience working on that project?
It was very interesting and fascinating. I was just so excited that I have all this faculty that were interested in doing this. It was hard work, because we have to do it several times. We have to write a script. We have to be sure everything, is in order by which they want it to work. So, but the beauty of it is, once everything was done, we were able to incorporate that into our curriculum because the GWEB case in Acadicus are being used in the geriatric classroom. Like this, the faculty themselves put on the headsets and actually teach within that environment. Going through the case scenario, using it to teach, and we do it across campus. So we have two campuses, one in Tampa, one in Clearwater, and one in Davie. So during our lectures, we connect through Acadicus to teach the content. So it's always very fascinating. And then they go in interacting and they go in discussing and they ask the student question. So the faculty in Davie will begin and the faculty in Clearwater will take it up and they will all interact, in this environment to teach the students. And then afterwards, the student will now come to my lab to reinforce their understanding and now use the VR themselves, to go into those scenarios with the patient and then go into the scavenger hunting to see, all those things that they have to be able to know, in order to prevent fall. So it was really, really interesting and it's been a great success. And usually when we run it, the students are always excited about it.
That's fascinating. I've got an older family member, and I was in their apartment the other day and looking around, and I identified several fall hazards. And it was like I had deja vu from being in that scavenger hunt, trying to find, poor Millie is trying to live at home, and she's got all these different, trip hazards and fall
Mhm.
hazards. And so it's, yeah, you sort of like, you really get a sense of having already been in that environment and identifying those risks. So it's
Yeah.
hopefully
And
as we scale that up, that'll continue to be able to provide really effective training for geriatricians.
and you know what we are also going to do this what we are also doing with Acadicus, actually you guys actually we develop an opioid case together, which is like a standalone. So what I've done in the past semester, the 2 semesters ago, was to actually introduce that we're into the clinic as well, like a soft skill training. So whereby I have medical assistants, coming into my lab, to learn how to, take care of patients that have opioid overdose and to learn how to use Narcan, because that's a tool that they have and most of them don't know how to use it. So we were able to use, this products, the virtual reality to train them how to apply Narcan and what to do to be able to resuscitate the patient. So it was the medical assistants, they was very excited about it. And they were like, oh my, this is good. And now I'm going to follow them and see whether the knowledge that they acquired coming to the lab and they were able to use that in real time to apply Narcan, so patients, that is how we are actually leveraging this skill. And the same thing is we are also hoping to do the same thing with the web, product as well too, so that we can expose that, application, the VR experience to our medical assistants, for them to actually understand what it means to have 4Ms and also what it means to be able to guide against fall and all those things that they have to do. So that's the next step that um, we're going to be taking GWEP to, to introduce that into the clinic environment and use it as a soft skill, learning tool for medical assistants.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's very, very exciting.
Mm.
So you had mentioned there's two different campus locations. Does each one of them have their own VR lab?
Yes. Yes, we do. And actually, I'm sitting in one of them right now. So my background, if I take off my background, you might be able to see it. Let me do that.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Um,
Oh, there it is. There's Simon,
yep,
EKG
yeah.
patient.
Yeah, I have the EKG patient, and I'm gonna move the camera around so you can see the lab.
Oh, wow.
Let me go out of there. All right, here we
Oh,
go.
look at that. So
You can
each one of
begin
the
from here.
stations has
Uh-huh.
several seats, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's a TV, a large screen TV there, so you can
Mm-hmm.
see. So the instructor, as you know, can walk around, or the facilitator can walk around and see what each of the students are doing, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not a facilitated experience. It doesn't require a facilitator to be in there live. It's an experience that you go through and you place the EKGs, you go through the entire procedure, and then you're able to confirm that you did the steps right.
Yes.
So but the facilitator is able to still watch what the students are doing, answer any questions that they have, and to be able to verify that they've done it correctly.
Yes. So and we are here, I know, because like for it's all about technology. So I basically teach this class with, being here with the students, to make sure that they actually do what they are, after watching the lesson, and then understanding what they have to do. And each time I have to remind them about the different the controllers, what it means to use the controllers, what you have to do, the 3 buttons that you have to do to be able to do this, you know, and all those things have to be done, each time, because, if they don't do it all the time and they come in, they have to have a refresher each time that they come in. But the good thing about it, that once they master it, we're there to provide the support for them when it comes to technical issue, if they have any technical problem with the VR. But most of the time they're good, and we're able to guide them through the steps. And it's been very successful, as we've been able to do this many, 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 many times. And they come in groups because we have large number of students. We have 160 some plus students in Clearwater, and we have 250 students in Davie. So we have them rotate the lab, depending on the case. So some case will be like 40 minutes, and some case will be like 45 minutes. And we put some cushion time, for us to switch, the students, as they rotate through the lab.
And so there's over 300 students per semester, is that right?
Yes.
And they're across two different campuses. And how far
Mhm.
apart are those campuses?
Oh, well, if you're driving, it's like almost 4 hours drive.
So 4 hours drive apart.
Yeah.
So they're pretty far apart.
Yeah, they are.
And when you facilitate these, you're facilitating across both campuses at the same time. Is that correct?
Well, so in some case, for the medical procedure, we run them. We have 3 days, and that 3 days includes they have mannequin experience, they have the immersive experience, and they also have another like low fidelity experience as well. So they have so many things that they have to do within that 3 days. So medical procedure will be 2 days. So immersive experience is one of such. Okay, so sometimes we run the two campuses at the same time, but sometimes we run it at different times. So, but we did that 3 days. So I might run Davie Monday and Wednesday, and I might run Clearwater on Tuesday. So that's more so because of the capacity of the staff that we have. So we are able to run those sessions, but we don't run them simultaneously for medical procedure all the time. So it depends. The courses that we have introduced into the the immersive experience, like the courses that the faculty themselves, like the geriatric, the web course, we the faculty will teach the course using the virtual reality in the classroom, right? Then the students will come to the lab. So in kind of situation, sometimes we do, because we made open lab for the students, but this time around, this semester, we're gonna make it mandatory for the student to come to the lab. And when we do that, we actually do that, connecting the two labs together, you know. So we do that. So my team will be at each campus, and then we connect together and we do it at the same time, you know. So, and that's what we've been doing for those courses that we are gradually introducing virtual reality into, that we are tying lab into it, you know. But medical procedure is a very skillful steps that they have to take. So we usually spend more time with them, and we usually want to give them, to make sure that we give them all the attention that they need, and uh, immediate solution to any problem that they might have. So we make sure that at least we give them that day
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in person. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Well, in similar to working with mannequins, I would imagine you have technicians that are setting up the
yes.
computers and making
Mhm.
sure the VR headsets are configured and ready to go so that the students get there and all they have to do is put on the headset
Yes.
and away they go.
Yeah, and that's what we've been doing. So I have my team here in Clearwater and my team in Davie. So they're always there, to make sure that everything, we don't leave the student alone by themselves. They just come in, they use the headset, and they have to do what they have to do, and they have to make sure that they do it well because they are being graded on it. So it's not a matter of you coming in and, I mean, it's fun. You come to play, but you're learning, having fun, so and sometimes we just have to remind them, okay, if you want to come back, you can come back and play another day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what happens is students get in the headsets and they're pretty excited. They want to be able to do, and that's the idea is to get them engaged. And I think when they're excited and they're leaning in like that, they're more likely to retain what they're learning for longer. They're more likely to remember what they're learning. So that's that engagement, that excitement and enthusiasm, I think is part of what makes VR so effective.
Yeah. And now we are making sure that our faculty are also trained, you know, and to be comfortable. So what I do in my faculty, any one of them that actually were able to use VR in this classroom they're my champions, So I I celebrate them because it's not easy, you know, and for them to take the step that, okay, I'm going to try this technology. I'm going to, take the advantage of the best of it and use it in my lecture. It's very exciting to me, and I'm always very excited, when I have faculty that have done that, and I celebrate them all the time,
Yes.
and based on that, we did our medical physiology. Physiology is an abstract course. So usually I do my one-on-one with faculty that are interested. So I met with Dr. Bemosuga. So immediately she saw Acadicus, she said, oh, I like it. I think I would like to use it. So I trained her and she picked it up, easily. She was very into it. And then we look at our course and see how we can leverage, Acadicus, and the case that she has was shortness of breath. And then she was trying to use that. The topic was autonomic nervous system, that she was trying to illustrate. It's always, you know, being difficult. Students don't do well when you ask them that question. So this time around, we use this innovation, we use this application to teach the students. So she was able to, after so many training, she got it, and we're able to go live with her in a lecture. She had a VR on, she went into Acadicus, she did what she needed to do there. We pull in the assets, and build a room with a patient, with the 5-year-old patient. And then she was able to go in there. She has 3 rooms, actually, 3 sides to the room. So room 1 was all about telling the objective of the case. And then room 2 was actually doing it with the students. And we have a couple of students in the in the scene with us, during the first lecture. And then she has a debriefing room, you know. So she had with all the students again, they went to the debriefing room and then they talk about the case. And, so we did that and the exam came and the student, they did well. I think she had like 27% or 21% increase in the performance compared to last time that the students did it. So, and that shows that, using this technology was able to improve the student performance, and they were able to understand the concept and they were able to answer the question correctly. And that improves the performance of the students. So we actually won an award for this in the year. And the ACOM, the Association of Osteopathic Medical School, so gave us an award, for this.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well deserved. That's very cool.
But yeah, so we got an award from ACOM for introducing virtual reality in the teaching of medical physiology. So Dr. Memusuga and I actually won an award, for
Excellent.
introducing that. And Acadicus was one of the products that we use, in getting to that. So
Excellent.
mhm,
Bringing VR to the classroom, I think that's a very exciting new frontier. And people are just starting to figure out that that's possible, and it sounds like you're also just in keeping with the theme of your innovation. You're one of the first to be really in there doing that. And I think that's another opportunity to really, again, simulation centers are vitally important places. But again, they can't just be open all the time. These are very expensive mannequins, very expensive equipment. But if we can sort of increase access beyond the simulation lab and get it into the classroom like you're describing, it's like a whole new world. It's like what students wouldn't give to see an interactive VR lecture like that than a PowerPoint, right?
mhm,
Like what an
mhm,
incredible opportunity to really get them engaged. And I think that's, again, you're seeing that engagement. So you see
mhm,
the increased efficacy in terms of, how well they do in the
mhm,
follow-up studies. So that's
mhm.
fantastic.
Yes. Yes, and well, we still have more work to do, so we are making progress. We are
Always.
yes, so we're getting there now that AI is one of the things that's the buzzword now for everybody. So we're getting to that front as well too.
Yeah, a lot of exciting opportunities there
Mhm.
as well,
Yeah.
for sure. I wanted to ask a little bit about the process of creating some of the procedures because it remind me of I think it's lumbar puncture, male and female Foley catheter, EKG, a wound treatment experience, endotracheal intubation, and we're just adding the CVL procedure. So I think
Yeah.
that's a total of 7 sort of simulation. Those are we call those the procedures. And
Hmm.
then we did the geriatrics project, and then we did the rural project.
Yeah.
And of course, the opioid project was another. So we worked on a lot of stuff together, didn't we?
Yes,
That's a
we did.
lot of
We
VR
did.
content.
We did.
Yeah, that's so can you talk a little bit about the process of creating those? Because I know, particularly, with the GWEP project, there was a script that was involved with, that we followed Millie from, being at home, and then she's in the hospital, she's in the ICU. And so we created 3D recordings from our team, but that wasn't as interesting until Dr. Guida put on a
Yeah.
headset, right? And Dr. Guida put on the headset and he recorded this entire lecture. And now when students go in there, they're not just seeing some generic person teaching a lecture, it's Dr. Guida, it's their teacher.
You are about to embark on a self-guided healthcare journey of an elderly woman named Millie. The scenario will take place at various stages of her journey, which we hope will illustrate the 4M framework for you.
Hmm.
And so that was a big part of this. But can you talk a little bit about the process of creating those procedures in terms of how our teams work together to be able to make sure that we represented these procedures accurately?
Yes. So the beginning of the procedure begins with a lot of dialogue, with the subject matter experts, which is Dr. Alonso, Dr. Michelle Johnson, and Dr. Eric Goldsmith. So these subject matter experts, they are the experts in when it comes to the content of what is medical procedure. So, and so we begin with them. So they have to evaluate, the scripts, and it has to actually match what it means to have EKG placement, okay? What it means to have lumbar puncture, So what are those skills? What are those steps that has to be taken? So we go through the process of identifying, working together with Dr. Alonso, with Dr. Michelle Johnson and your team. We have several meetings together, right? First of all, we identify, okay, what video do we want to use for you guys to actually see what we are talking about? All right. So sometimes we provide video for you guys to see, what are the steps that we want to be able to have our students master when they use virtual reality. And then Dr. Alonso and Dr. Michelle Johnson will come in and they will review that to make sure that, the scripts actually align with what it means to be doing this in real life in the hospital or in the clinic, So, and once that process is has taken place and we have established the content, and then your team will take that up, and then we work together to make sure that technically, everything that's, supposed to follow actually happens. And I work closely with your team to make sure that, we have all this in and out, in place, the things that's supposed to be there, the things that doesn't look the way we want it to look, and to make sure that we are not deviating from the true picture of what the students are supposed to learn, so that when they go out, when they actually go to a real patient or when they go to the clinic or the hospital, the skill that they have learned, using virtual environments, is extended. They can see it and they can make use of it. And even to the extent that sometimes, like for the lumbar puncture and for the CVL, those are kind of complicated, scenarios, and the last time that we did those two medical procedure immersive experience, the student actually, they were able to, they got excited about it because they don't see it, that easily to be able to do, but the immersive experience allowed them to be able to understand, to see it better and understand the step that they have to take. So, and that is Dr. Alonso and Dr. Michelle Johnson and Eric Gosmith, Dr. Eric Gosmith making sure that the content aligns with what the students will see when they get to the clinic. So that was very important. That was actually a very, very important aspect of the steps that we take in the process. And then once that is established, we meet with your team a couple of times, to make sure that, everything, looks the way we want it to look and feel the way feels the way we want it to feel. And also I usually bring in my research students. We've done that a couple of times because I made them to test it out first, because when we test it out first, we do find some issues or some things that are not being done well. And the students, so we want to get feedback from the student perspective as well. So I'll have my research student kind of play around with it. So, and then we come back to you guys, and then you guys will make all the adjustments. And at the end of the day, we now come back and then we all look at it again. You do some recordings for us, and then we look at the recordings, and then we now say, oh yeah, this is perfect. We can use it now. We're ready. So, and that's how the process has been, from the beginning to the end.
So I think, it speaks to how memorable being in a VR headset is, but like I remember those review sessions like they were yesterday. Like we were all together, you've got, all the team members are there and our developers are all there and we're standing around this patient and we're going through the procedure and, maybe we could do it this way, maybe we should try it that way, and kind of going through that iterative cycle to get it just right, but those review sessions were a lot of fun. I always enjoyed that.
Yes, yes. Yes, and that's very important actually, when it comes to development, there's one thing for you to develop, there's another thing for you to review and provide feedback, to enhance, the development, so um when it comes to virtual reality, you want to create a scenario or a case that is almost as realistic as possible. All right. And that is that's what makes it innovative, because you want to create it in such a way that I want my students, my faculty, to make use of this tool to enhance their understanding and the skill that they want to acquire. And you're trying to do this in a way that is memorable, that they can remember. Once they leave that virtual, that's what the immersion is all about. So because they're making use of everything that has to do with their sensory organs to actually learn this. So you want them to leave and have the feeling that, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to do this in real life. I'm ready to do this with the mannequins. So, and that's the beauty of it, because once you are in that VR headsets, you're just in your own bubble, and then you just want to give it everything, so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm wondering from your perspective, we talk to, clinicians and educators all over the country, and, we're seeing this picture emerging of really a pretty devastating shortage of clinicians and a shortage of educators in the medical and healthcare education space. Can you speak to your experience with that in terms of, is there a shortage of instructors? Is there a shortage of clinicians that you're seeing in Florida? And do you think it's going to get worse, or are there any solutions on the horizon? And is VR potentially part of that solution?
Talking about such shortage of physicians and educators, I think what we have identified is that in the rural area, we don't have as many doctors, physicians, or healthcare in the rural area. And that was one of the things that propels us in the writing of the proposal for the USDA grant, to actually take, virtual reality, to see how virtual reality can help train our preceptors or our students, in that aspects, across, so that even if they don't have the educators or the physicians, always present in the rural environment, we are hoping that virtual reality, being able to connect, from anywhere, can actually leverage that into, leveraging using that technology, to enhance, the provision of service, you know. So I know one of the things that we actually requested for the USDA grant was holographic experience. We wanted to hologram into the clinic, because we are looking at, during COVID, nobody can go into the clinic, into the room with the patient. So one of the things that we requested for was the holographic experience, which we still, we're doing within our classroom here, but imagine you doing that, and holographically being able to assess, your patient, bringing the physician to the patient where they don't have physician in person, but you have physician that can holograph into the room and be able to see the patient. And that brings us to telemedicine, to telehealth. And that's another thing that's the next phase of what we are doing when it comes to with the using immersive technology. So my hope is to bridge the border, to bridge the gap, and go across this border to be able to connect us in the virtual world and be able to bring service, from wherever, to whether it be in the rural or even in the urban place, just connect educators, physicians, students. And I believe the immersive experience, the virtual world, can actually help us a lot. We can leverage these environments, to enhance, to bridge the gap between, shortage of physicians or instructors or even medical student training. Sometimes the way you train in certain part of the states is different from the way you train in other part of the states. So if you all train together, using the virtual environment platform, the education, what you get from both sides or from wherever you are, will be the same, because you'll be able to structurally to structure your teaching in such a way that you can communicate to everybody at the same time, and they will obtain the same skill. So in answering your question, I think there's future in leveraging virtual environments when it comes to be able to bridge the gap, and help us in enhancing or supplementing the shortage of physicians or instructors, across our borders or across our states, or even our local um, rural environments as well.
That's fantastic. That's a great vision and kind of dovetails into my last question for you. And you maybe have already answered this, but what do you see as the future of VR? What's your, if all obstacles are removed and you get your way and everything is implemented flawlessly over the next 5 years, what does the future of VR look like?
It's going to be better. It has come to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's going to become even more immersive, in the sense that, the virtual reality, the mixed reality, all right? The augmented reality are going to become one in the sense that's tied to the AI. That's where we are going. So, but now there's so many other things that are going to come up with being able to combine those things together. But that's the future, especially when it comes to the healthcare education, So, and what I want to tell everybody, is don't use technology just for the fun of it. Use technology to achieve those things that nothing else can achieve. So if we have that goal, then we're gonna always think outside the box and be able to stretch our boundaries, to actually bring out the best, in what we are doing. Being able to use this environment to the extent by which it's gonna give us the best and make us achieve the best when it comes to medical education, whether being practice or training, and delivery as well too, because even in the hospital environment, even not only in the education environment, in the clinic environment, in the hospital environment, you bring in virtual reality or mixed reality or augmented reality combined with the AI into preparing your preceptors, your faculty, your doctors, your physician, continue medical education, right? You want them to be able to use that, and virtual reality or immersive technology can help that, because then the doctors can actually use that medium to actually practice, what they have to go and do, before they go do it, or use it to kind of reinforce their understanding, or prepare for their board exams, because they have to renew their exams, right? They have to renew their license, right? So these are the ways by which we can use this. And they're always very busy, but if you bring it to the environment, they're already there. They can use that, from wherever they are, to practice, to continually, being in there, revisiting what they have to do, and then taking that information and showing it to the patients, before any surgery, occur, or any procedure occur. You tell the patient this is what you'd be expecting to see. We have tools, that we can leverage to do that. So, so I think the future is, it's not going anywhere. Is going to be better, and we don't have a choice. We have to keep, following it and making it, the best that we can, So.
Absolutely. Very well said. Very well said. Well, I sincerely appreciate your time meeting with me today and sharing the insights that you've shared. I look forward to the next interviews. I think we've been working together for quite a few years now, but I feel like we're just getting started. The best is yet to come. There's a lot of exciting new places that we can go. So very, very honored to be working with you and appreciative of all of the work that we've done together and the projects that you've brought to us and the innovation that you've brought to us. It's just very, very much appreciated by myself and everyone on our team.